Get the career you want with the skills employers need. Make a BTEC work for you.
Welcome to the Skills World Live radio show, sponsored by OneFile, a world where everyone is learning for their future. Stay tuned for all the news, views and interviews in association with FE News.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Skills World Live radio show, today broadcasting from Leeds City College in Yorkshire. Now, will you please welcome the programme's presenter, Tom Buick.
Hello and welcome to our second live roadshow of the series of Skills World Live. Today, we're at Leeds City College. And what we enjoy so much about these college roadshows is not only that's a chance for us to record a whole episode in front of a live studio audience, but also to showcase the wonderful world of skills and FE. But they're also uniquely a co-production with Level 3 BTEC students here at the Quarry Hill campus. Now, we've got a superstar panel lineup for you today. And they're all primed and ready to go as they face 4 questions that will be asked by our 4 learners in the audience here at Leeds City College. Let's start with Laura Hall, who is the Product Manager in Business Enterprise Law and Esports with Pearson BTEC and Apprenticeship. Sitting next to Laura is Bill Jones, and he's the Executive Principal here of the college and also Deputy CEO at the Luminate Education Group. Moving along the panel is Callum Neal, who is Head of Education with British Esports. And given one of the questions today we've got, Callum, you're definitely the right guy we've got along. So thanks for coming to see us today. Now finally, we've got Rob Reed, who will be very well known to the students because he's Deputy Head here at the college in Creative, Media and Digital Arts. Audience, will you please give our superstar panel a warm round of applause.
You're listening to the Skills World Live radio show with Tom Buick.
So without further ado, let's go now to Therese Stapleton to get today's discussion underway.
A recent study has shown that over 3/4 of the UK workforce do not feel ready to operate in a digital first world. How can this be tackled? Okay,
digital first world. Go on, Bill.
Well, for those that want to go into digital careers, they should go to their FE colleges where there are lots of digital specialist courses, but all people now need digital skills, everybody, for whatever career you're going into. So what we try to do is to embed it into every course that we do. So as part of your course, you're learning whatever technical or vocational or academic skill, as well as a whole range of digital skills. But it needs to be more than that as well, because as fast as you learn digital skills now, they go out of currency. And so what we need to teach students is how to learn for themselves and how to be able to recognise how their skills are changing, the skills they need are changing, and to have those self-starting skills to be able to teach themselves once they've left college, to keep updated with those digital skills that they need. And I think the universities are beginning to call this professional literacy.
Great terminology. Laura, when we talk about digital skills though, just sort of expand on that a bit, because I think we know the term digital, particularly when you think about some of us in this room will be old enough to remember the old analogue TV channels. So I think we know what we mean by digital and smartphones and all of that, but what do we mean specifically by digital skills?
Yeah, so one of the misconceptions I think is that what young people can do so much better than many other people is social media, digital skills, and obviously if you're doing media production, which many of you are in the audience, you've probably got a lot of digital skills. But if we're talking across the board, if you're studying academic programs or other vocational programs which don't tend to lean towards digital, the skills that are needed for the actual workplace are missing, and therefore embedding into all qualifications is really important, and therefore teacher training, confidence in how you embed digital skills, and also employer engagement, a more structured way of standardising employer engagement within curriculum and education, I think would be a really sort of great way forward to ensure that it's equality for all in terms of raising those digital skills.
Yeah. Clem, if you had to prioritise 3 digital skills that are just absolute must-haves in today's world of work and just being a citizen, an active citizen, you talked about, professional literacy. If you can't read and write in our society, you're not going to get very far, are you? So what would be the 3 kind of digital skills you think are most prized?
I think digital citizenship essentially is the one that would encompass more than 3, and looking as already mentioned, the gap that we have and where FE has such a purpose is to connect the fantastic young people of today that we've got coming through our education system, who already have lots of these digital skills but also wider transferable skills, and I think it's about actually an understanding of the digital landscape to highlight to people that are in our education system now what skills they already have and allow them to bring those to the forefront. In particular for us through esports, which is around human versus human competitive gaming, which lots of people have been playing video games since they were 3 and 4 and 5 years old. Actually, do you recognise the skills that you have? Things like teamwork and communication and leadership and the ability to think under pressure and think strategically. But then a real important job for FE colleges now is, can we connect to the employers as well and ensure that they understand that young people have those skills? Yeah,
well, let's put that point then to you, Rob, because in a sense you've got this very special responsibility here with the students to really prepare them for what happens after FE, whether that's progression on to higher education, but increasingly it's progression into apprenticeships or it's progression directly into work. So how are you thinking about the organisation of the curriculum? But not just that, also the kit and the capital equipment that you need to really teach those digital skills well.
One thing the pandemic really brought to light was how much digital poverty there is. So we had to teach students when they were still at home, and we found one of the big, well, it was a surprise to me, and perhaps I was quite naive, is how many people just don't have the internet at home, or if they do have the internet, it's a shared resource between a family. So that's a big challenge for us in education, is making sure there's a quality of access for the students. In terms of, as Callum said, the students with more skills sometimes than certainly than me as a manager, and it's about working out the application of those skills. So it's those what are now called smart skills, things like whatever your job you go into, you're going to need to work with people you don't necessarily get on with or haven't met before. You're going to need to work as a team, you're going to need to be resilient, reliable. So it's the application for me. The software changes every year.
Yeah.
So teaching someone a software skill is good, it's fine, but it's principles that are more important really. It's, what are the principles behind this? And that comes down to things like workflow, knowing your place in a system, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Bill, can I put this issue of digital poverty, as it's been called, and absolutely, the pandemic did expose, I think, the digital haves and digital have-nots in our society. I remember coming across the story of a student actually at an FE college who was riding the local bus network because that had 3G access in order to access the portal where his assignments, coursework and homework was being placed. Do you think it's about time in a modern sort of society? Obviously there's a lot of money goes into FE and ultimately we look to the politicians, don't we, to make these kind of spending decisions. But would you support a policy of giving every single 16, 17-year-old access to a decent laptop and access to a 3G, increasingly 5G, isn't it, dongle, that ensures that actually everybody digitally is on the same level playing field?
Yeah, I mean, we did come close to that during the pandemic. The government did put their hand in the pocket and provide. We as a college received.
It wasn't universal though, was it? I mean, it was
tens
of thousands.
Tested.
It was means tested.
We got about 3,000 Chromebooks across the board, and most students then that needed one or wanted one were able to access that. And my view is that access to the right kit, whether that's internet connectivity, a Chromebook or a laptop or whatever, at the right specification, should be a fundamental right of anybody going into education, and that shouldn't be based on your ability to buy it. I mean, we don't question a chef's need for knives.
Exactly, it's all tools of the trade, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tool of the trade. So anybody in education. So we do try our hardest to make our learner support fund, the bursary funding that we get from the government, to spread it as thinly as possible so that we're helping as many students as possible. But if you made it a fundamental right, I think it would pay for itself many times over in terms of increased productivity for the country. It would be a good investment in the same way that we considered HS2 to be a good investment for the economy. That would be really excellent for the UK productivity.
So I'm going to divert slightly from the schedule because I'm really interesting actually to get a show of hands from the students here in the audience. Slightly loaded question, I know, but would you support the notion of every student getting good access to a laptop and a 4G or 5G dongle? Put your hands up if you think that's a great idea. Wow, pretty much 100%. Well, I think it's 100%, even I can count. There you go. So hopefully the politicians are tuning in to skillsworldlive.com and they know that it's a very popular policy if you're looking for the youth vote. But Laura, I mean, as an awarding organisation, and you think a lot, don't you, about how you not just develop the curricula and you work with, obviously, colleagues here at this college and elsewhere to shape the pedagogy, as it's called in the jargon, but, the teaching and learning. How can AOs, exam boards, support that whole process of digital literacy?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're very conscious of is ensuring that we are highlighting within curriculum, either moving forward or, in the recent past, around how teachers may be able to embed, where they may be able to embed some digital learning within, different subjects. So making it obvious and how they might want to do that. So giving them examples of, how they might want to teach a certain subject using digital technology or skills. And one of the things that I think that there's a lot of room for us to do is to, just on the back of what you were saying before, is to work with not only the government, because we all know the government have only so much money, with the big technical companies to support the younger generation coming through to be employed in their companies around that whole access.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that we can play a part in that.
Yeah, just before I come back to you, Tereya, who asked the question, just sort of wrap up this segment for us. Clem, I mean, on that point about employers and the role of potentially companies, who after all also increasingly, I mean, you've got to look at it in terms of Instagram and YouTube and influencers. I mean, this is their not only existing market in the room, it's their future market, future consumers that are more, frankly, digitally savvy than people like me. So surely it's in their interest to get this kit out, isn't it?
Absolutely, to make things accessible, to call to businesses, call to enterprises that are out there to actually, what can you do to help this? How can you, as an employer, work with the schools and colleges networks within your region? How can you support them? How can you provide resource, facilities, experiences, and key things that we all want in education and students that are looking to move into employment more than anybody is access, yes, digitally, but then also access to these opportunities that whilst we're studying qualifications and we're developing skills, we're developing knowledge, we need to be able to learn how to develop those work-related experiences and behaviours as well, so that actually when we leave and we've got our piece of paper that says we're qualified, we can also walk into job interviews and say, yes, I'm qualified, but also look how much I've done. Here's my portfolio of evidence. Look what I've done over the last 2 years whilst I've been at college, for example. Yeah.
Let's go back to Tereya then, who asked the question. Tereya, you're a journalist, so you have to increasingly look at the world through stories and narratives, and also in terms of how you might influence readers and audiences. What have you heard today that's made you perhaps think differently about this whole challenge of digital literacy and skills?
I think it's great that they're bringing in more, because obviously it was hard during lockdown and with some people are not able to access technology. So I feel like it's great to hear that other companies will help children that are unable to access technology.
Yeah. We haven't got all of them to do that yet, but
I feel like
what's coming out
having the conversation will help more, because it's with how the world is, it's expensive technology and everyone should be able to have access.
Yeah. I suppose the point really is that it should be a level playing field, shouldn't it? There shouldn't be such a thing as a digital have or a digital have not in a modern society like Britain, where if people have equal access to the kit, it's still about getting on then and decide, because not everybody wants a digital career, right? Digital, and not all careers are going to be digital. But where do you see your digital future?
My digital future, I do eventually want to create documentaries, and I want to travel the world and show people that have not seen other parts of the world what it's like. That's what I want to do.
Well, I'm sure you'll get there, and you'll be making podcasts along the way as well. Audience, please show your appreciation for Talea and a brilliant question.
You're listening to the Skills World Live radio show with Tom Buick.
Right, so we've solved the country's digital skills gap. Up next is Ben Smithson, who is a health T-level student. Of course, T-levels are a new government-owned qualification that's only just been delivered actually in the last couple of years. And there are several awarding organisations, including Pearson, that are involved also in T-levels. So over to you.
What needs to be done for students considering a career in health and social care to ensure we're entering an industry with better pay and better respected prospects?
Again, this is another one of those, I think, pandemic-related questions that we ask as a society. You know, does everyone remember when we had the very first couple of lockdowns? We had that. Was it Thursday? You had to go out and clap for the NHS. Do you remember? Who had a crazy mum, dad, uncle, or auntie that went out with the saucepan as well and did all of that? I mean, that was a bit embarrassing. Certainly was me. Anyway, we clapped for the NHS, didn't we? We said that, you know, we really value those who work in health and social care, and actually with an ageing society, we absolutely need that workforce. So how do we, and I think this was what was in the question, really kind of raise the value of vocational pathways like that? Who wants to take that question first? Who's feeling spiky this morning? Go on,
I can
Laura.
Start.
Yeah.
I might not answer directly this exact question straight away, but I've not worked in my years of FE. I've worked in a lot of departments. I haven't worked in health and social care, but I do know a lot of people that have, and I know a lot of people who work in the NHS. So I'm kind of taking my points of view from that in a way. And I think one of the things around the desire for people to work in health and social care and to reduce the NHS stress and anxiety would be around the management systems, linking in a way to the digital that we talked about a minute ago. Because one of the biggest problems with working in health and social care is not the people that work there or the people that they have to care for. It's the systems that they have to work with that which is, the stress of what happens. And in terms of recruitment, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to promote the benefits of working in the NHS, if we're using the NHS entirely, compared to other industries. So if you like the idea of working in the NHS, but you're put off by the pay or the working conditions or the like the hours, actually let's nail that down. You know, is an 8 till 4 shift actually a problem, or is working overnight and then
yeah, absolutely.
having 5 days off a problem? I don't know.
Rob, you're teaching the future workforce here in terms of health and social care. Laura's right, isn't she? We've got to redesign really the jobs as well, because we can go on all we like about how much we value people who work in this important sector, but they are relative to other sectors low paid. I don't believe for a minute they're low skilled. You often hear people say they're low paid and low skilled. There's nothing low skill about being in a very high touch industry. We talked about high tech in the previous question. This is a high touch sector. It's about people at the end of the day. Do you think British employers just need to pay more for these care workers?
I think one of the very frustrating things, did you see the it was an advert a while ago of a ballet dancer. Fatima's new job could be in cyber. It's about a year or so ago. And it's incredibly frustrating. And it's a cultural problem at government level that there's this results, money, success focused. There was a degree in, I think it was Sheffield, which was facing cancellation because they couldn't prove that their graduates were going to go on to high paid jobs. And it's this very strange culture of going, education is this thing where what you've got to do is you've got to be this incredibly successful person, and that success comes in money and status and power. And when you're at the teaching level, there's two things frustrating about that. One is I think it's a false picture. The other is that just creates an aspiration, which is it's not aspirational. It just seems out of reach. It seems impossible, and it seems alien to people as well.
Yeah.
I think there's, like as you said, there's less focus on this idea of the point of this. The point of education is to become a better person, to become a better person for other people as well when you end up working. I think you sort of need to fix it at a culture level, where you say, you know, employment is about nurturing your employees, looking after them, making them the best they can be, paying them properly for sure, but the focus shouldn't be the best people are the ones who get paid the best. So that's palpably not true in our society.
Yeah, because I suppose if everybody's aiming to earn those top salaries, then who's going to do the jobs which historically have always been as much about vocation as much as pay? I mean, I think that's really the point that you're talking about. You know, there are people that are really, I mean, my youngest daughter, she wants to be a vet. She loves animals, right? Now, some vets get paid a lot of money, but there's also a lot of jobs that you do in that intermediate period up to becoming qualified, where actually you probably won't get paid very much at all. So, but that won't stop her potentially from going into that area because it's a vocation. She's passionate about animals and she wants to care for them. And I think it's the same for health and social care. Some people are just very good communicators. They're passionate about looking after people. But I think what you're saying is, and I agree with you, is that culturally, and it's not that you're the same in all cultures, we don't always perhaps value those workers in our society as much as we should do, until you get a situation like we've had in the last 2 or 3 years, when the so-called key workers, in inverted commas, that we depend on are the people in the supermarkets, are the people in the warehouses, driving the forklift trucks, getting those online goods to us. It's people working obviously in our health and social care. So how do we build culturally just up the ante in terms of the value of vocational technical qualifications in this country?
Well, I suppose to answer the question about getting people to stay and be attracted to health and social care in that sector, the health sector in general, we need to make a choice in this country. You can have low taxes or you can have investments in public services. You can't necessarily have both. Not sure if that's too political.
No, we do freedom of speech at this podcast. You just say what you think. Yeah, absolutely. But
yeah.
It is a trade-off, though, isn't it?
But absolutely. I mean, the other danger that we face is that we talk down. We say, isn't it terrible in the NHS? It's got record vacancies, very high rates of sickness. When actually there are some wonderful careers, wonderful opportunities within the health service. We as the college have very good pipelines from entry-level courses right through to foundation degrees and beyond, higher level apprenticeships, into excellent roles within the health sector. So I think...
And it's always a growing area as well, isn't it? Because, who knows what the jobs of the future are going to be? And of course, today's workforce, 2/3 of people who are in the workforce today will still be in the workforce in 2030. And I'm going to come to you in a second, Callum, but jobs and occupations in your area, obviously we've got a whole segment on esports, so we won't dive too much into that at this stage. But essentially, these are jobs that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. But arguably they are jobs and occupations that, shall we just say, have come across as being a bit sexier than some perhaps of these more traditional jobs like in health and social care. So inevitably young people sometimes are going to chase those opportunities, particularly if it's fueled by what Rob's saying about, do this course, it equates to earning this mega salary and you're going to be travelling around the world at exhibitions and trade fairs showing off your gaming skills. I mean, you've got some sympathy with
definitely.
a sector like health and social care.
One of the key messages that we always get across to students, and that I would say to any young person either moving into education or in education now, is study something that you love. Because if you're passionate about what you're studying, which is hopefully the reason that everybody in the audience is here today, that you're actually passionate about a subject. Yes, we have education routes that move straight into jobs and careers, apprenticeships, for example, and the way that T-levels are aligned. But there's something really powerful to be said about studying something that you're passionate about, because if you're enjoying your studies, then you're going to enjoy the work, you're going to enjoy the research, you're going to enjoy producing your documentation. As a result of that, you'll probably then get higher grades because you've enjoyed doing what you're doing, and then at the end of all of that, you're going to leave with a qualification, with high grades, with good experiences, which can then move you into something that you love. And I'm not going to sit here now and say you need to know exactly what you want to do now for the rest of your life. It's about journey. It's about being in education and being on a learning journey. I'm still learning now in my job. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was 16 years old at all. And I think ultimately it's about following your passion and then being open to ideas and linking into health and to social care. You know, one of the key areas for us in esports is around mental health, is around stress and anxiety and performance arousal, to make sure that actually when we're performing in front of millions and millions of people for high prize salaries, that athletes are prepared for that. And we need staff who are experts in that area to come and work in that industry. So I think it's about opening your minds as well, that whilst you might be on a programme and you might be looking at something that you've got a passion for, actually start to look outside the box a little bit at some of these emerging industries and where there will be a need for your skill set and your knowledge as well.
Yeah, well put. Come back to Ben. You asked the question, didn't you? You just heard your answers there from our panel. What do you think?
I completely agree with what Laura and both Rob said. It is really important that everyone shouldn't just get paid for being really high up. It should just be equal for everyone. Obviously, I agree with different pay completely, but I do understand why there is frustration. And with what Laura said, it's not about the workers, it's not about why they work there, it's the system. The system needs changing, it needs working on to make it all function properly and make people stay.
Yeah. Have you got some ideas, Ben, about how that system could be improved? And obviously, we've talked about pay. A lot of, not all, but a lot of people who work in social care are on the sort of so-called national minimum wage or national living wage. Is that perhaps something that government needs to look at? I think it's your point, Bill, about the trade-off again between, if this is a really important group of people in our society, we've got to invest in them more. So it's the pounds and pence angle, I suppose. But are there other ideas that you might have about how you can actually improve the system itself, and improve the work? I mean, Laura talked obviously about redesigning some of the job roles around more part-time hours, for example, that fit in with people's busy lifestyles and other caring responsibilities. I mean, would you support that kind of thing as well?
Absolutely. I also think the technology needs working on. It's not up to date as of now. Like Callum was saying, I agree that technology has to be up to date for it to function nowadays. We all have to be technology advanced. The NHS currently isn't. That needs working on.
Do you think we make enough use of... So in Japan, for example, because they've got a really ageing population, and they're also struggling, with attracting people into health and social care. So being Japan and very tech savvy, they've invented robots now to go around and, their old age senior citizens' homes and actually, with meals and support. I mean, do you think we should bring some robots to work alongside human beings?
I think it's a bit early for that, but definitely a few decades down the line, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, who knows, we might see a robot called Ben Smithson at some point. But Ben, you've been brilliant. Thanks for your question today, and thanks to the panel for answering the questions.
You're listening to the Skills World Live radio show with Tom Buick.
OneFile is the best apprenticeship e-portfolio in the world. But did you know it's ideal for all kinds of vocational training, including traineeships? OneFile is very flexible, so it has everything you need to deliver, manage and track traineeship progress.
We're currently using OneFile for all our traineeship learners. They love it, and so do we. It's fabulous. Thank you, OneFile.
To find out more about OneFile, head to onefile.co.uk and book a demo with a member of the team.
Moving on now to our next question. We thought we'd home in on a course here at Leeds City College, which is designed by the show's sponsor, Pearson BTEC, an apprenticeship, and is breaking new ground in terms of the skills and careers in the field of esports. We've already mentioned it a few times, and it's what Rob Reed, who's on the panel with us, has described esports as a level 3 course that is designed to teach post-16 students not only gaming skills, but also those critical competencies that employers are looking for, like leadership, teamwork, business skills, and of course, having the right mindset. Have your students got the right mindset, Rob?
Initially, no, but that's why we're here. Okay. Well, I started teaching games 10 years ago, and the first thing everyone I knew said was, is that a real thing about my job? And the thing a lot of parents quite reasonably say when their children come to do the esports course is, look, is this real, or is this 2 years of messing about? And it does attract some students who, that's definitely their goal.
Anyway, just hold that thought though, because
Yeah.
we're going to get the question now
Oh.
from Bix. I just wanted to get a quick reflection from you because I mentioned you in the introduction. So Bix, give us your question to the panel, please.
Thank you. Is the option of studying esports a valid career option, and are there enough jobs in the city region to support such a new industry?
Callum, I'm going to come to you on this because you've been, again, instrumental in designing and supporting esports. And it's linked a little bit to the sort of previous question where, we know there are plenty of jobs, but there's a challenge sometimes in attracting people into that industry. Is it fair to say probably in your industry, there's certainly lots of interest, lots of enthusiasm, but in the end, are those jobs there? I mean, there's gaming that goes on in your leisure life, behind closed doors or virtually or with a group of friends. But are there real careers in this area?
Yeah, it's one of the most common questions that I get asked in my role, and there are a few key areas that I would point out there to potential students, parents, employers, careers advisors. First of all is the size and scale of the esports industry. As it stands, the esports industry is currently the fastest growing industry in the world. It's predicted to become a $1.6 billion industry in 2022.
$1.6 billion.
$1.6 billion.
So, although the pound crashed recently, I'm just trying to do the pound conversion rate, right? Because it's nearly at about a dollar a pound, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, that's essentially well over £1 billion, basically. Well over.
The economy is huge, and it's one of the things that I would use as a comparison to try and get people to understand the size and the scale is, to me at the minute, the esports industry is probably the most underground yet mainstream thing that I've ever seen. So pre-COVID, we had all of the big numbers in terms of esports events and attendances, viewership, prize money. Largest prize pool that we had, a major event, was at the Dota 2 International in 2019, which was almost a $36 million prize pool for 18 teams, which was 90 players. The winning team of 5 players won $11 million. In the same year as well, we had the League of Legends finals that were hosted in South Korea. In terms of online viewership at those finals, we had around 98 million people that tuned in to watch those finals. To give you some comparison, the same year, the American Super Bowl had 96 million viewers. So, just like in traditional sports, in order for us to consume the American Super Bowl and for them to participate at such a high level, we need journalists, we need broadcasters, we need marketing, we need advertising, we need lawyers to look at international tournaments, we need coaches, we need performance advisors, analysts, coaches, team managers, the list goes on. That's exactly the same in esports now. So this is not just about playing the game, as you mentioned. Playing a game in your bedroom, that's one thing. That's what we can all do. We can all go home and play games. Esports, by definition, is competitive, and it's human versus human. So in order for you to compete, yes, we've got the players, but just like in any traditional sport, if you're not a player, we need all of these other job roles and career roles around the players to ensure that this can happen. So yes, there are jobs out there at the professional level, absolutely.
Have you got a figure on that? I mean, you seem to be quite confident about the investment level over £1 billion, but
yeah.
On average, how many job openings are there a year in the UK for people that are broadly in this gaming profession?
It's emerging. There isn't a specific amount that I can give you on esports specific, because what I'll say about esports is, saying the word esports is like saying the word sport. Like, are we talking about hockey, netball, basketball, cricket, downhill mountain biking? It's the same in esports. We have so many different genres and titles, and within that, therefore, we have so many different roles. So to work in esports, you might be a lawyer, you might be a content creator, you might be a performance coach, you might be a psychologist, you might be a dietitian. So there isn't as such an esports specific amount of job roles that I could give you. But what I think's clear from my perspective is what we've created in the UK specifically is sector leading and leading on an international scale. We have over 500 teams now, as of yesterday, that are signed up to compete in our student championships for British esports, for schools and colleges. And the predictions are, and again Laura will be able to talk a bit more around this, is that we're anticipating around 5,000 to 6,000 students will study esports qualifications this year. And that is not just about playing games. Again, the way I always describe the qualification is, it's like studying 1/3 business, 1/3 creative media, and 1/3 sport, all around the esports industry.
Yeah. Laura, we're talking there specifically obviously about careers in this emerging industry, as Callum said, around gaming. But presumably there's vital skills that are being taught and learnt within the curriculum that frankly could be applied to just about every sector. I mean, I'm thinking increasingly to talk about apprenticeships and endpoint assessment. You know, you've got now organisations using AI, they're using virtual technology, they're thinking about bringing in programmers and coders and people who can see that world in a very visual sense to help, for example, you know, we've got a lot of public service mannequins behind us today, you know, and the police service needs to think about how it's using sometimes gaming technology to track down criminals, for example. I mean, you know, I've read those type of articles. So really, we've got to think beyond, in that sense, just esports. You know, maybe that you do an esports course here at Leeds or elsewhere in the country and you go into that industry, but equally you may pick up these amazing skills and think as a gamer and think about gamification, as it's called, and kind of go into a completely different industry but apply those knowledge, skills and behaviours.
Yeah, so you're spot on. One of the, not one, but many of the key things around BTEC and esports and esports education is that all of those transferable skills that were mentioned towards the beginning around strategic thinking, problem solving, decision making, communication, teamwork, 5 really key, I've probably missed one, but 5 really key top level
pretty good though,
skills.
aren't they? Yeah, employers want those.
You will pick up some of those skills in many other BTECs, of course, but they're all in one place around esports. And what's brilliant about it and what's emerging as a growth area is the armed forces, the public services. They all are talking to us about how they like the fact that esports is a programme of education, and those skills are coming through, and they are looking to how they use them, as well as the football clubs. Broad range of job opportunities at the football clubs, and Formula One are massively into it. They've got, you know, they just need people who have done esports with those skills. And even high-level businesses are starting to recognise that actually somebody who's done esports and is a player and has understood the industry adds a lot of value to their business, because they are actually coming with something that they don't have in their business. So you could be a video producer, but if you've done video production within esports, you've got an added benefit to them.
Absolutely sounds like that. And Bill, you know, I'm thinking about a large college like this and the fact that you've got obviously students coming through in a whole range of vocational areas, and you'll have your alumni, right? You'll have the, you know, the student who started on a catering course or became a chef and is now quite well known either in the region or in the country as a whole. Likewise in terms of not just esports but sports, people who go on to be great footballers and cricketers and rugby players. Do you see a world in which one day Leeds City College will say, and as part of our alumni, we've got these amazing esports graduates?
I very much hope so. We're very proud of our alumni, and Susie might be able to help me, but I can't remember. You should be able to list, you know, we've got famous rugby league players, chefs, as you say, just about every subject we do. There are people that have properly made it to the top of their profession and are, you know, worldwide famous and things like that. And I already know, I don't need to I imagine that will be the same for esports, if it isn't already.
Yeah.
I think we've.
What's your thoughts on that, Rob? I mean, you know your students in that particular area really, really well, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's a very new course, so we've only just, this is only the second year, so we've yet to see any ongoing foul. One thing I do know is that our university centre is developing a degree ready to catch our graduates to go and take them further. I'm hoping, definitely so. What's the lovely thing is to see students who may not have found something that fits them. This is the great thing about it, and they've found something they love doing and that they're good at, and you can actually say to them, you can do this for your life, and that's amazing.
I think it's good you referenced the relative newness then of the course. In terms of places then, do you see yourself oversubscribed in the future, or is it one of those sort of course areas that if there's a demand there from students and importantly from employers, that you can easily expand the provision?
If we have the space.
He looks at Bill, the principal.
Well, it's an interesting question because it's increasingly those decisions are being made at regional level. So the West Yorkshire Combined Authority will look at regions' local skills improvement plans. And if this features up there, then yes, then investment will follow in terms of accommodation, funding for courses, staff, etc. But I talk to a lot of employers in this area because I chair the Leeds the local digital skills partnership for West Yorkshire, and the employers there are desperate for recruits. They cannot fill their vacancies, and what they need are a whole range of coders, people with networking skills. So they are very attracted to people that you don't need to go into esports, which is the point that several panel members have made far more articulately than I am. But we're confident that if we were to invest in courses like this, it doesn't narrow young people's options, it actually broadens them. They come out with huge amounts of transferable skills.
Absolutely, and that's a really important point, and I'm glad you've made that point on this podcast that goes out to tens of thousands of people who work in FE and beyond, because you mentioned I call it the dreaded acronym, LSIP, Local Skills Improvement Plan. I wonder how long we go actually through the show before that reared its head when you're in a local area. That said, those plans at the end of the day, without sort of diving down a rabbit hole and getting too technical about them, those plans that every local area in England has been set around what are your skills needs, tell us, colleges, employers, local community. Ultimately, civil servants and ministers in the Department for Education nationally have got to sign off on these skills improvement plans. And, you often do detect, I don't want to, smear my fellow civil servants and colleagues in sanctuary buildings in Whitehall, but there is sometimes a view that really education is all about the STEM subjects, it's all about getting obviously the maths and English right, and everybody would say, oh well, that's great, and we do want, it's not just a professional literacy, we want to ensure literacy in its broadest sense. We do need to focus as a nation as much on science and technology. But how, as someone that's chairing this local group, how do you ensure that not just the policymakers, as it were, locally get that message, but how do you ensure those nationally get that message as well? Because this feels like such a new industry. If we're not careful, it could be neglected, couldn't it? And not get the attention it deserves nationally.
Well, we need to ensure that we lobby successfully. We have a loud voice as a sector, an increasingly loud voice. And I think we have been fairly successful with that. We're because of the college of our size, we're able to attract the skills ministers. We show them around, and we can influence policy. We feel as if together with the AOC, we have that. We do have the ear. I mean, as I said at the beginning, skills are seen as the way to recover the economy post Brexit, etc. And so, for the first time, FE is at the centre of the skills landscape of discussions around productivity. It just needs to be funded now, of course.
Good. Well, I'm really pleased to hear you've got the ear of skills ministers. We've had about 5 in the space of 5 months, so there's quite a lot of ears that you have to...
the current one is a local MP, so that makes it a bit
That's
easier.
Andrea Jenkins MP, right.
Yes,
well,
she's been in the college several times.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, that's a great shout out for Andrea Jenkins if she's listening. Bix, let's come back to you then, because you asked this question initially, and in fact, you're not in esports, are you? You're a level 3 journalism student. So is there anything about what you've heard from the panel today that's perhaps made you, and I don't want you to change your course by the way, but have you heard anything that's made you think, oh actually, that sounds really, really interesting, I might do esports instead of journalism?
Well, I won't be switching to journalism, sorry, but it is really assuring because journalism is something that I'm very passionate about, and the thing with journalism is there's hundreds of different types of journalism you can do, and just thinking about esports the way I've been told about it, there's about, off the top of my head, there's about 5 or 6 different things I could do at an esports event that would involve journalism, like running a social media page, interviewing the players, doing all these things. Like with esports coming around, it really helps, and it gives me a chance. And I'm sure not even just journalists, it'll give people that are into different things a chance to get extra jobs. It's opening up vacancies, which is nice because I've got a lot of people in my class and stuff that they want to do the same thing as me, and this helps.
Great. Well, I'm going to look out for your name, Bix Williams, esports journalist in the future. So brilliant. Thanks for your question today.
You're listening to the Skills World Live radio show with Tom Buick.
Okay, time's really flown today, but we've already covered, of course, a lot of ground. Now, if you're an FE college that does creative media production and you like what you're seeing today, then do get in touch with us. Who knows, we might even be able to come and visit your FE college. We've certainly been blessed with the skills and the professionalism of all the students and staff here at Leeds City College. So, we've got one last question for you now, this special podcast. And it comes to you today from Tanatswa, who is also a T-level health student.
Can each panel member tell us the subject they most disliked learning at school or college, and have they changed their mind about it later in life?
Right, this is one of those questions, it's all about you now and about your learning journey. We've talked about everybody else and students, haven't we? So who wants to start with this one? I'm looking at you, Rob. Over to you.
I was rubbish at PE, any kind of sport, any kind
all
of physical.
sport? Obviously not esports, it wasn't
sports.
around then.
If I kicked a football, I would hurt myself and break a window. It was absolutely rubbish at it. But as you can see now, I'm professional.
Did you have PE? How many times a week did you have PE?
We had PE once a week.
Right,
well, I didn't.
okay.
I tried not to go.
Oh, yeah, right. Do you have the note from home that said,
Yeah,
oh...
had a lot of notes.
Yeah, he had a lot of notes. Okay.
Yeah.
You just recycled the notes.
Yeah, but I haven't. I'm still rubbish at it. The nice thing is realising that it's okay to be rubbish at some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remain appalling at all those things, and it hasn't mattered.
And there's playing sport, isn't there, at any level, amateur or professional, and then there's sort of watching, spectating, enjoying sport. Do you like sport generally?
I hate all sports.
You just hate
except,
all sports?
of course, esports.
Apart from esports,
Yeah.
right, okay, brilliant. Yeah, well, you know, it's a free society, you're allowed to hate sports, you don't have to be a mad, Leeds fan or anything.
I'm one of
like
those
that.
awful people who watches the football when England's playing in the World Cup, and I get very excited, and everyone looks at me like, you don't really like this.
Yeah, well, that sounds like me in horse racing. I only watch the Grand National and bet once a year. The rest of the time, I never watch the horse racing. It's just that sort of, I don't know, it's like a ritual, isn't it? People get involved in that. Callum, what about you? Think about your learning journey.
I think, contrastingly, my background is sport. So, you know, I love PE. I used to be a PE teacher. A variety of sports. So I was that teacher who was dealing with, I've not got my kit, sir, and I've not, you know, so I'm used to that. But I think for me, two subjects, there was never really a subject that I disliked, but I'll share two experiences with you that actually sort of transformed my way of wanting to then work in education. Firstly, I can remember being starting off in a top mathematics set, and it was too fast. It was too quick for me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up. The teacher was far too quick for sort of my level of understanding. So I got moved down a set, and that really sort of knocked my confidence in thinking, am I any good at this subject? You know, is it something that I can't do? And I went into set 2, and I had a fantastic teacher who gave me time, who let me work at my own pace, and I came out with a grade B in mathematics, which I was really proud of, which showed me that
that's
the
old
power
money,
of a
isn't
good
it?
teacher.
Grade B.
Grade B in old money, yeah. Which
What's
showed
that in the modern? So that's is that an 8 or a 9?
It's seven,
something like that. Something like that. Which showed me the power of a great teacher there. And then on the flip side, another sort of vivid memory that I had was doing an opinion piece in a religious studies class, and the teacher really took offence to my opinion, which I don't think was that offensive, but actually screwed my work up and threw it in the bin. And that really affected my confidence as well in education, and again, moved into a different class. And then just had a fabulous teacher who really encouraged us to be opinionated, to ask why, to ask questions. So they were two subjects that for a period of time I really disliked, but actually through the power of fantastic teachers made me really fall back in love with those subjects. So I suppose that's my message today is when you find great teachers, cling on to them, listen to them, and they'll help you.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Laura?
I really detested science at school, and I'm probably the oldest on this panel. I did O-levels, that's how old I am.
Me too.
I did too.
And funny enough, I'm sport as well, so all I wanted to be was a PE teacher. But sport, in my day, wasn't even a subject. And if it had been, I probably would have taken more notice of science, because science and sport go together.
Sports science.
But it didn't. So I ended up, funnily enough, going to college and doing a BTEC in business and finance. And then I went to university, and then I did a whole sort of career for 10 years in management. and retail management, and then I went to retrain as a teacher and ended up very quickly running a sports department because transferable skills. I'd done management, managed many people, managed many shifts and problems like that, customers, marketing, etc. Go to a college, learn to teach, ended up running a sports department with travel, public services, etc. Loved it because I'd worked with a lot of young people in retail, sort of 16 to 18, 19. I thought I'll just work in FE because I'm used to that age group. And the skill sets that I had transferred into teaching and transferred into managing. And then I worked at Pearson. So I still don't like science, is the answer to your question. But I understand that, and I would have liked to, when I see things on the, you know, like you go to pub quiz and there's a question on science, you've no idea what the answer is. I wish I'd have done science past year 9, which we didn't have to do in those days. So answer to your question is I still don't really like science, but I should really take more notice of it.
But listening to that story though reminds me of that old phrase, jack of all trades but master of none. I mean, in the sense, I think the story you're all telling here is that whatever experience you have, whether it's in formal education or outside that, whether you hate sports or you love sports or you hate science or you love esports, I mean, it's about finding your niche, isn't it? It's about sort of finding what really makes you tick and what gets you out of bed in the morning.
And just one thing to add, I developed the esports qualifications at Pearson with the help of British Esports because I saw and understood that there was a need for it. I have never ever played a game.
Right. And there's another
So you can transfer to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's another really great lesson in life as well. I mean, it's a bit like putting a podcast like this together. You can't be expert in everything, but what you've got to be, I think, very good at is knowing what your own personal limitations are, and being able to bring in other team players around you who frankly have better skills, more expertise, like today's camera operators and sound operators. I don't know anything about those things. But we've got them here and they're the people ultimately that will make this production. I hope, guys, we'll hope it fly. Bill, did you do O-levels?
Yes, I am old enough to have done
the
penultimate year of O-levels.
Right, confess then. Tell us how many O-levels you got.
It's a very long time ago. I got 9. It's a very long time ago. And in those days, they used to split by gender. It was sexist in those days. They used to split.
What way?
So all the boys did woodwork and metalwork, and all the girls did cooking and sewing.
What was that? Was that like an edict that came from the school?
I don't know.
I
think it was nationwide. But I had to do metalwork and woodwork, which would probably be called DT or something like that now. And I absolutely hated it. Paid no attention, and and I really regret that. Bitterly regret it because I am utterly useless now at anything DIY. I can't even paint a wall or put up a shelf. Utterly useless. I have to pay people good money to do all of those things. So I wish I'd paid attention.
Yeah, but again, those trade skills, that's, we need those tradespeople in the economy. So are you one of those people that when you get back with a IKEA flat pack or something, you lose your temper within just
very quickly,
1 minute?
Very
and you
quickly.
phone up those
I end up paying
those firms that come around?
No, I pay my daughter to do it.
All right, okay, good.
So
all right, well, she gets
a bit
paid.
of pocket money.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Well, on the old currency then of O-levels, which of course were around, for those who don't know, just before GCSEs, 1980, actually I was just on the cusp. So last year O-levels, and actually really I've got GCSEs, and the reason for that, Bill, you got 9 O-levels. I failed all my O-levels apart from 1 in English, and that was in part because I had a really good English teacher. Mrs. Neat, big shout out to you if you're still around, at Eton School, Nuneaton. And actually, as I describe my learning journey, I mean, it's quite ironic, by the way, that I failed all those A-levels, and today my day job is to represent the exam boards that actually run the modern day equivalents, but that's by the by. But I think for me what it was that the actual classroom learning, being at school, I just didn't connect with that mode of learning, it wasn't for me. But then, having failed my O-levels, I couldn't go on to, with the rest of my friends, to the local, in those days it was the sixth form college, but my local FE college, North Warwickshire College, welcomed students, just as they do today, who maybe haven't done so well, having done 10,000 hours of formal schooling. And I then took 5 GCSEs, and I got all of those. So I'm not quite up to 9, so I got 6, so yeah, 1 with the O-level. But no, it's not. And I think what that sort of shows us as well, and actually why I'm so passionate about FE and why it's so brilliant, is because it doesn't matter, does it, where you are on your learning journey, if you need a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. It's places like this here at Leeds City College that's always got its doors open and is always open access and available to people. And that's why you students are very fortunate today to have a brilliant place like this with some fantastic staff and indeed people who support as partners on the external to the organisation. So coming back then to our last questioner, what do you think?
I personally think that in terms of enjoying a subject, you have to enjoy your teacher. That's my take home today, that if you have a good teacher, you should stick with them. Yeah, absolutely. And were you know, who inspired you then the most today? I mean, again, it's not a competition amongst the panel, but which sort of story really spoke to you? I mean, we didn't coordinate our wardrobes, by the way, earlier. That's, but you know, who inspired you today? You can say everyone if you want. If you want to be kind of, you know, politically neutral. I think everyone inspired my story today. So basically, yeah, I think everyone.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Where do you see yourself? I mean, this is one of those terrible cliche questions now. I mean, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time when you're no longer at Leeds City College?
Probably as a nurse. As a nurse.
So back to what we were discussing earlier, in the caring professions, helping our NHS, our health and social care sector. Good for you. I think that deserves the loudest round of applause so far today. Well, folks, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. It just leaves me to thank our superstar panel, Laura, Bill, Rob and Callum. And of course, all the brilliant students and staff here at Leeds City College who've helped us co-produce the radio show today. Now, don't forget to subscribe to Skills World Live. That's the #1 skills podcast now in the UK, connecting the world of FE. Just head over to fenews.co.uk or skillsworldlive.com and join our other 40,000 subscribers. We're also available on all the podcasting sites, broadcasting the show live each Friday during term time at 4 p.m. at fenews.co.uk. Thanks for listening today. See you next time.
Remember to subscribe to Skills World Live at fenews.co.uk or just download the show from any one of your favourite podcasting sites, including iTunes, Spotify and Spreaker. Your world, Skills World.